Hello, Sophia. Okay, we are on chapter 10 of Exodus now. So let's think about what they've been through so far. So they started off with just kind of a couple of tricks that were to demonstrate that God was not to be played around with, right? So turning the rod into the snake. I think like they threw something in the air and turned it dark, something like that. So a couple of things that were like, nobody gets hurt, right? Pharaoh's not impressed. So then the first plague was Nile turns to blood. Then, I might get these out of order, but let's go through them. We had frogs. So the Nile to blood, we had frogs, we had flies, we had a plague on the livestock, we had boils, and we had hail. So, I think that's where we are. That's what they suffered through. And on the last one, on the hail, we start to see the Pharaoh crack. He's like, yes, fine, you can go. And then he's like, no, take it back. So once the emergency is passed, once, the hail stops, he's like, kidding, I didn't really mean it. So let's see what happens next, chapter 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for his heart has been hardened and the hearts of his officials, so that I may perform these miraculous signs of mine among them, that you may tell your children and grandchildren how I dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and how I performed my signs among them, and that you may know that I am the Lord. Remember, some translations say that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. That's because we don't have an exact verb tense that they have called the stative tense, where there's no subject. It just really means Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And remember I said, I think that means our actions become our habits. So we see early on, Pharaoh hardens his own heart. And we even saw that right before, after the hail. It says he and his officials hardened their hearts. They're making a choice. But we're now reaching a point where having a hard heart and not listening to the warnings is becoming a habit. And that's why God is able to say, because I know the future, I am going to have to do all of these things because Pharaoh is going to keep hardening his heart. But God keeps giving Pharaoh chances. He gives him warnings. He lets him know what plague is coming before it comes. Pharaoh always has a chance to avoid the consequence. He just never takes it. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will bring locusts into your country tomorrow. They will cover the face of the ground so that it cannot be seen. They will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. They will fill your houses and those of all your officials and all the Egyptians, something neither your fathers nor your forefathers have ever seen from the day they settled in this land till now. Then Moses turned and left Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials said to him, how long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go so that they may worship the Lord their God. Do you not yet realize that Egypt is ruined? Then Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. Go worship the Lord your God, he said. But just who will be going? Moses answered, we will go with our young and old, with our sons and daughters, and with our flocks and herds, because we are to celebrate a festival of the Lord. Pharaoh said, the Lord be with you, if I let you go along with your women and children. Clearly you are bent on evil. No, have only the men go and worship the Lord, since that's what you've been asking for. Then Moses and Aaron were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over Egypt so that locusts will swarm over the land and destroy everything growing in the fields, everything left by the hail. So Moses stretched out his staff over Egypt, and the Lord made an east wind blow across the land all that day and all that night. By morning the wind had brought the locusts. They invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area of the country in great numbers. Never before had there been such a plague of locusts, nor will there ever be again. They covered all the ground until it was black. They devoured all that was left after the hail, everything growing in the fields and the fruit on the trees. Nothing green remained on tree or plant in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now forgive my sin once more and pray to the Lord your God to take this deadly plague away from me. Moses then left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. And the Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind, which caught up the locusts and carried them into the Red Sea. Not a locust was left anywhere in Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. We're seeing the same pattern, right? So remember after the hail, that as horrible as the hail was, God's mercy was still in it. Because he said, okay, it's destroyed the flax, and it's destroyed, what was it? One of the other major crops, the barley. So the flax and the barley have been destroyed by the hail, but you still have wheat, so you're not going to starve. There's still some fruit on the trees, there's still some plants that haven't died, and you've still got wheat, which is the major thing you need to make bread. So God was merciful. He spared some of that from the hail. But he's now saying, look, if you're going to keep being stubborn, I'm going to have to keep being firm. The next plague will destroy everything that the hail didn't take. So the mercy that I showed you, because I don't want your people to starve, I want them to have food for bread, I want them to have fruit, the locust will destroy all of that. Locusts, when they come in a huge swarm, they eat everything. They just leave the ground barren. There is nothing left. He says the locusts will come in, and the things that I had protected, that I had tried to save for you so that your people would not die, those things are going to get devoured. And Pharaoh at first looks like he's going to compromise. He's like, okay, if I let you go, who are you going to take? And Moses says, we're taking everyone. We're taking our kids, we're taking our old people, we're taking our herds and our animals. So in other words, we're going to take the wealth with us. We're taking our money with us. And Pharaoh says, no. How about just your men go? Your women and your children stay. Because if the women and the children say, hey, I think he thinks two things. One, the men will come back. They won't want to leave their women and children. And second, I'll still have another generation that I can raise up in slavery. So the people who are children now, in a few years, they'll be adults, and I'll just have lost one generation. And Moses says, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You are eventually going to let us go with everything we came in with and even more, because we have made so much money for you, we deserve to get that money as well. So we're not going to leave empty-handed. We're taking everything with us. So far, Pharaoh says no. And we see, once again, the same thing that we saw with the hail, where when it's really, really bad with the locusts, he calls in Pharaoh and Aaron. He's like, okay, your God is real. I've really screwed up. Just, you can go if you make it go away. And Moses prays, and God lifts the storm. God lifts the plague. And Pharaoh, once again, is like, no, you can't actually really go. It's just going to keep getting worse for Pharaoh. Pharaoh refuses to learn. He refuses to listen, and everyone else is paying the price for it. Egyptian children, Egyptian families that didn't have any say in this. When we have bad rulers, when we have unjust people who are running our country, who are running our society, all the innocent people suffer. That's not what God wants to happen. That is just the natural consequence of actions. And one of the terrible things about the way sin works in this world is that it doesn't just hurt the person who sins. If it did, we would kind of be like, well, that's fair. You did something wrong. Now you feel the consequences of it. It's not nice, but it's kind of fair. One of the reasons I think God hates sin so much is that it causes innocent people to suffer. We see that the Egyptians are suffering because of what their king is choosing.